Welcome to Overcoming No Decision. My name is Michael Nick, and I'm your host today. I've spent the better part of 10 years as Worldwide Vice President of Sales and Marketing for a software company. In 1998, I founded ROI for Sales. Over the past 16 years, I've worked with small startups and many large companies like Oracle and HP, Rockwell Software, and Train. We developed custom software tools for discovery, economic impact analysis, ROI, and TCO. I'm also the author of Why Johnny Can't Sell, ROI Selling, and my latest book is an Amazon Top 10 business book called The Key to the C-Suite. I'm hosting today's webcast on Overcoming No Decision and would like to introduce you to my colleagues. Drew Wright. Say hi, Drew.
Hi, happy to be here.
Good to have you. And Alex Corman. Alex?
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for giving me a hand here. Before I introduce their bios, I'd like to share a little background with you. You see, earlier this year, I merged ROI for Sales into Technology Finance Partners because they have a unique experience in having provided financial sales execution field support on thousands of enterprise technology opportunities. As a result, their products and services combined with our efforts have aided in closing well over $1 billion in bookings and revenue. Now, I'd like to turn my attention to introducing you to Drew Wright. You see, Drew co-founded Technology Finance Partners in 2000. He's worked with numerous clients, including Sun, Alcatel, Polycom, Informatica, Autodesk, and AT&T to drive hundreds of millions of dollars of enterprise technology investment through strategic deal structuring, collaborative business case analysis support, and the delivery of value selling sales tools. Drew's been at the forefront of business transformation to the cloud and has spoken at a number of software conferences on the subjects of ROI, green IT, SaaS pricing strategies, and customer analytics. It's great to have you, Drew. Our second presenter is Alex Corman. Alex is a principal analyst at TFP. He specializes in building opportunity-specific business cases and has also helped his clients close trillions of dollars of revenue, Alex?
Yeah, well, that may not actually be that much, but really I just wanted to have a bigger number than Drew.
Nice. We got a little competition between the two here.
Maybe just a little
Let's
bit.
see, Alex has previous experience at a number of companies, including Bank of America and Intel, and that's where he launched the company's first e-commerce website. That's one that grossed $1 billion in its first quarter of operation. Alex has written and spoken extensively about best practices and return on investment analysis, and he gets embarrassingly excited about new features in Microsoft Excel.
Who doesn't?
Like we all don't. In a moment, I'd like to go over the agenda, but first I want to explain the structure for today's webcast. You see, vendor-based webcast programs are typically used to educate and inform an audience. We have selected a topic that is somewhat self-serving in that ROI for Sales and TFP, we offer products and services that will help resolve many of the issues around no decision and decision delay. With that being said, our format for today is as follows. We're going to have a short discussion on why no decision happens, followed by 5 proven strategies that you can use to help avoid and overcome no decisions. Then we'll present you with some advice on what you can do now to use these strategies. And finally, we're going to share with you some of the tools and techniques that we can help you with. But before we begin, I'd like to mention just a couple of housekeeping things first. To communicate with us, please use the chat box in the GoToWebinar control panel. I will also be monitoring that, and if you have questions, please enter those in that question box in the GoToWebinar control panel. I'll be monitoring that as well. At the end, I will select as many questions as time permits, and we'll try to answer them. If I don't get to your question on the air, I'll send you a personal email with a response in the next couple of hours. Finally, a reminder that everyone that has signed up for the webcast will receive a great newly written white paper on overcoming no decision written by our very own ROI Ninja, Alex Corman. We will send you all the link information to download it within 24 hours. So let's begin with why no decision happens in the first place. Well, obviously there are a myriad of reasons why no decision can occur, including lack of technology fit, external events like an unexpected merger or acquisition. TFP's focus is on financial sales execution, so we aim to stick to that knitting and discuss tools and techniques to use when you know your technology solution is the right answer, but the deal's inexplicably stalled. I will begin by throwing out the first reason I believe no decision occurs. And that's just simply status quo is just not painful enough. This is one reason where I believe you can head off the problem with some sales tools that will ensure you qualify someone out before it gets to the point of no decision. Next, value is not clear. Drew, why don't you take this one?
Sure. When a sales team does not take the time and effort to articulate their technology's business value, associate it with a quantifiable economic impact, and map it to their prospect's key business initiatives, the prospect will be challenged to buy into the proposed solution's ability to ease their pain, and most likely in the literal sense of not buying. As a sales team, it is critical to collaborate with the prospect to get to this point of clarity so that they can not only evangelize the solution to their management, but also compete effectively against other investment options.
Yeah, so true. Hey, Alex, the third issue is cost of no decision. It's not clear. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Sure, Michael. So when you're stuck at no decision, it's likely the customer doesn't know or maybe doesn't even care about how much the delay is costing him or her. And if you're selling a customer that the customer really needs, there is always a soft cost associated with waiting. And as a sales professional, part of your job may be to make it clear, perhaps painfully clear, of how much waiting is costing them. I've worked on a lot of deals where the customer had literally no idea how much money they were throwing away every day. And we'll be describing a couple of strategies about how to make that cost clear in today's talk.
Great. And finally, a common issue is lack of budget. Drew, this is you.
Yes, Michael, this really is a common issue that we see. Your solution appears to be a great fit, but A, it wasn't on the budget process radar of the prior year. B, it is a new technology that more or less defies a budget category. Or C, the prospect's current year performance is suboptimal, so budgets are being cut. The latter ends up being a bit of a catch-22, as your solution could help the prospect to improve top-line revenue or bottom-line performance. No budget is a big contributor to no decision or decision delay to the next budget cycle, especially when learned in the latter part of the sales cycle. So Michael, what can be done?
Good question, Drew. Here are 5 strategies for overcoming no decision. You see, to help overcome no decision, or to help overcome why no decision occurs, we're going to focus our discussion on these 5 strategies that we've used in the past with our clients with great success. The first is a look at the importance of using discovery tools to determine status quo and the ongoing cost of no decision. And then we're going to explore an interesting concept called value slides. Then we'll have a short discussion on the need for a custom business case. And then we'll introduce the concept of an opportunity matrix. Finally, when budgets are tight, we're going to talk about strategic deal structuring. A quick word regarding when no decision occurs. The short of it is that no decision occurs throughout the sales process or sales cycle. We believe it's one of the biggest benefits of value selling at all stages. Avoiding no decision before it happens is a key success factor, whether it's a yes or a no. The tools and techniques we intend to review today can help you redirect efforts if a prospect is qualified out, as well as accelerate a solution to close. So let's get started. When discussing discovery tools or discovery, I believe the obvious first step is to identify the problem and then ask the appropriate questions to get to the current cost of status quo, as Alex mentioned. A key to great discovery is documenting the questions and the answers. It shows professionalism, organization, and it differentiates you from the competition. Here's an example of a sample discovery questionnaire that we created. Let me walk you through it real quick. You see, the challenge and value are displayed prominently at the top of the page. Then we reduce the time spent in collaboration meetings, followed by text explaining how you resolve that issue. You can see that. Followed by several targeted questions so that you're able to calculate the cost of status quo. In this case, you can see the company spending nearly $100,000 just on meetings. The key is to remember here is that you're documenting the questions and the answers, so you're not winging it, much like we are on this webinar, right, Drew?
Sure, and Michael, if I may interject, another key to status quo assessment is ensuring discovery alignment amongst the extended account team. Let me give an example. A couple of months ago, I was asked by a client to work on a business case for their prospect. On my first call with the account team, I learned that pre-sales engineering had already been on site for a workshop. Business consulting had conducted a series of interviews, and professional services was already putting together their budgetary estimate based on their questionnaire. Yet when I probed the account team for quantifiable metrics, very little data was available that I could use for the business case. To make matters worse, the company was private, so there wasn't a lot of public data to mine either. Then, when I got on the phone with the prospect, we were confronted with their distress for having to go through yet another discovery process, and the account executive elected to redirect efforts. Now we're in mid-December, and still no business case. Little surprised that the status on this one fell from likely to upside.
Yep. Next, it's important to extrapolate that cost over a period of time. For example, here it is over a 3-year period. Again, let me explain the layout in the same. The layout is the same as before, except now we have 3 columns. There we go. And now we have 3 columns, excuse me. Keep in mind that this is just one of the points. Notice the accumulated cost over the 3-year period. It's calculated over here. So you can see that there's 100,000, that was the first year, or 99,090. The second year, 101, which accumulates to 200. Then finally, the 305,000. Keep in mind, this is just one point about reducing the amount of time required in collaboration meetings. There will be several pain points, and extrapolate all those costs over the 3 years. You've helped your prospect understand the status quo isn't free, and that costs will continue on, and in many cases, those costs will continue to rise. Finally, this sets up the conversation for threshold for pain, or commonly called tipping point. This chart displays or illustrates a customer's tipping point regarding the threshold for pain. Hey, Drew, can you walk us through this concept?
Certainly. An oversight that we see in value messaging is showing the annual impact and then not extrapolating that value over time, assuming that the prospect will do this simple math. Everyone is geared differently, and everyone has dozens of things on their mind at any given moment. So it is critical that you spell it out when you can. Take this chart. 200,000 may not be meaningful enough, but 500,000 in 2 years may get someone's attention and get your initiative on the list. Extrapolating to year 4 and 1.3 million with a net present value, taking that cost of pain and putting it into today's dollars of 1.1 million, may be what it takes to put your initiative to the top of the list.
I remember a client of mine once told me a story that they sell to telcos. My client sold a deal to Verizon several years ago, and it saved them 100,000 full-time equivalents, so 10 people basically. So that's $1 million in savings. Verizon was ecstatic, and my client wanted to tell their story in another sales situation with AT&T. My client was trying to express how big the savings was to get to AT&T's tipping point. In other words, they were trying to say, would $1 million make an impact? Well, when they relayed the story to the people at AT&T, they got almost no feedback at all. After the meeting, my client asked their inside champion about the story, and she was told, look, we're AT&T. We have 250,000 employees. 10 really doesn't matter. And for the $1 million, we spend that in ink a month. You see, my client didn't realize that the tipping point would be so vastly different for each prospect, and you need to have the discussion early and often in the sales process. If you're able to identify the point at which a prospect will make a decision, you're a long way in reducing the losses to no decision. Alex, you want to weigh in on this?
Sure, Michael. You know, it may be helpful to think of this threshold line less as a line and more as a range or a band. You know, clients aren't going to tell you a specific number, but definitely common sense can prevail. So I'll just be Captain Obvious for a moment. If you're selling to Apple, it's unlikely that $1 million is going to get their attention. But for a medium-sized company, absolutely.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
He comes to the office every day wearing tights and a cape.
And a cape, nice. Some things you just can't get out of your mind. Here's a few things that you can do using these concepts. First of all, you can create your own best practices. Begin by breaking out your discovery questions. See, the key here is that your questions must drive pain. Make your prospect feel the cost of no decision. And then document their answers so that you're able to send them a note confirming the problem and the current cost of that problem. You see, if you're able to thread your discovery document into your overall discovery strategy, as Drew mentioned, hey, all the better. Secondly, tipping points are important. People in general don't resolve an issue until it hits a point where the pain is unacceptable. Learn to have this discussion in range, as Alex pointed out, with your prospect. Use the chart to display the ongoing cost of status quo. And then finally, You know, none of this really matters unless you teach your team to ask for agreement in the numbers that you've collected. The benefit of executing on a status quo analysis, that's to put a number to the cost of pain, early in this sales cycle is twofold: being able to confirm buying intention or being able to move on to a prospect that is more ready to buy. Hey, one quick reminder, if you have questions, please send them to me in the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel. We are monitoring it, and there are plenty of questions coming through. The key to successful discovery is asking the right questions, collecting data that can calculate current and ongoing costs, and finally, being able to return the information back to the prospect for confirmation and agreement. Our core business is to build the tools necessary to accomplish these tasks. Here's an example of some of the tools available: another type of questionnaire and the status quo report that is returned to the prospect after the discovery session. The next strategy is a tool called a value slide. This is one of my favorite. It can be a great communication tool in the early stages of a sale to spur value discussions. Drew, can you please explain the concept?
Roger that, Michael. Value slides can be used throughout the sales cycle as new parties are pulled into the conversation, or all the way at the end to underscore a business case when presenting to less technical folks in executive management. The construct is straightforward: a simple value title, a clear description, a before and after illustration, and the basic math. 3 opportunities for learning: words, visual depiction, math. Years ago, I was at an insurance company with the account team to support the presentation of a business case by the department director to the new business unit GM and our VP of Finance. The director was concerned that the GM and our VP were not going to understand the underlying value drivers, so he created a very simple before and after block illustration to help spell it out. It was an aha moment to see the lights go on, realizing that different people need different communication vehicles to gain understanding. The experience spurred our invention of value slides, whereby we extract our business case benefit objects, title, description, and algebra, from the Excel analysis, and then add a comprehensive illustration, often incorporating our client's branding. We also simplify or spell out the math. In the end, no decision can simply occur due to the lack of understanding, and value slides can help to complete the communication and ensure clarity of how the solution will drive increased productivity, cost savings, and/or increased revenue.
Thanks, Drew. You can build a library of value slides where you identify and describe the most common issues your solution resolves. Identify the current state and future state following deployment of your solution. Formulate the basic math to calculate the economic value of your solution. And remember, value slides can be useful in the early stages to express value and gauge buying interest, but they can also be used throughout the sales cycle to help ensure understanding regarding the value that you can deliver to an enterprise. We have a service where we come to your location and work with your team to build a value inventory. It is exactly what the name implies, an inventory of your value proposition. We, however, take it a bit further in that we rank each issue defined by the level of importance to your prospect and add your competitive edge. This document, as displayed here, becomes the foundation for building a library of value slides. This is an approach you too can take, as well as to build your value slides as you work to find the key to the C-suite. Our next strategy is the development of a comprehensive business case. A business case tells your story. Alex is one of our resident experts in this area. Captain Obvious?
Thank you, Michael. So yes, there's really no better way to compel action by the buyer than to demonstrate the financial impact of a yes. And the classic way to do this is to build a business case demonstrating the value of your product in the customer's environment. A business case goes by lots of names: cost-benefit analysis, BCA, ROI, BVA. It's a real alphabet soup. But no matter what we call them, they're just a great weapon to have. The very point of a business case is to show that you will have more money if you buy. A good business case gets you to the point where no decision isn't a problem to begin with. And if you skip past a business case and now you're stuck in no decision, well, now is definitely the time to introduce it. It used to be, say 5 years ago, that we would only need a business case on enterprise deals. Now it seems like every deal requires a business case. commercial, public, even some small business deals. Now the customer can do the business case on their own, or maybe someone in your channel, or maybe you can give it to an SE as kind of their part-time job. We think it's so important that we recommend engaging a professional to do it full-time, either a person on your staff or a third-party expert. We could spend a ton of time talking about how to do a good business case. There's lots of material on both the TFP and ROI for Sales websites, or you can shoot us a note. But for now, I'd just like to talk about the importance of a clean presentation. So no kidding, more than once I've come in on a deal where someone else did the business case, but it looked like dreck and the deal wasn't going anywhere. But just by making it look clean, clear, and professional, it turned the deal from a no decision to a win. One I did for an insurance company, it went from dead in the water to a PO. And frankly, all I did was apply some best practices to make it look more professional. And a professional look begins with the discovery status quo part of the process that Michael has already described. And it carries forward to the depiction of benefits that you see here. By the way, we will often show scenarios which are conservative, likely, and optimistic, as you see right here, to show a range of financial impact. We found that these scenarios help build up our credibility. We also label all of our inputs so that data sources are clearly known and group qualitative descriptions with calculations to most clearly show why and how a financial benefit will be realized. So we typically show a 5-year cash flow that features a clear depiction of all costs and all benefits associated with the solution. Benefits are phased to take into account the time it takes to deploy a product and the possible growth of the business or environment. Typically, there's a selector to make it easy to see how numbers appear in the different scenarios. Again, conservative, likely, and optimistic. And finally, we clearly and precisely show the key financial metrics that help financial decision makers make an informed decision and hopefully sign that contract. Next, compelling graphics. Again, that really can be everything. We want to show the financial impact in a way that's visually engaging and really makes the case, even for people whose eyes glaze over whenever they see numbers. And we use this top chart you see here a lot. It shows the potential for benefit across the scenarios compared to costs. Here, it all looks positive after about 18 months, so that's good. The key point from all of this, numbers really matter, but presentation can matter just as much. And a professional-looking business case can overcome no decision just about as well as everything. So let's say the business case is convincing, that we've built credibility and are showing a strong result. Usually that's good enough. But let's say that's not good enough. Let's say everyone is buying the economic value, but they're still not willing to pull the trigger.
So what are they going to do, Alex? What do you think?
So yeah, there are two things you can do to make your business case create urgency to buy. One is to leverage temporary pricing. I did this on a deal last week with a major auto manufacturer. I built 2 financial summary pages, one with the pricing if they sign by the end of the quarter, one if they bought next year. It is a bit of a pressure sales tactic, but we have a lot of history with this client and have a good sense of when to turn on the heat. And I'm really interested to see if it works. And if you want to know how it all turned out, send me a note and I'll let you know.
All of our email addresses, one second, Alex, I just want everybody to know all the email addresses will be at the end of the webinar. We're going to give you where you can send that note. Sorry, go ahead, please.
Great, no problem. So yeah, so the second way is a bit softer. We suggest releasing a schedule of the precise value lost per period while the customer is sitting on his hands, like in this example. If you've done a business case, and if the customer has signed off on the economic value over 5 years, then you're in a perfect position to demonstrate what it's costing every month that they wait. And this simple table clearly shows how much they lose each month and how much they've lost since presenting the offer. And you may want to make it extra clear as to where they are in the process of watching money fly away. Hopefully they look at this and they say, ouch.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, this is really good. And I just want to interject there too. I mean, this is this is obviously the tipping point again. And you know, if you show that in that conservative, likely, and optimistic, that gives that nice range of the tipping point. And you could do a chart for that as well. And just, you know, again, just trying to get that point across in whatever way it takes to get the customer to understand.
Yeah, great stuff. And building a high-quality business case is very challenging. If you want to take it on yourself, be sure to enlist resources that are qualified to create the financial story. Understand your true value and the economic impact it brings to your prospect. Finally, Be sure to include sections in your business case like current cost, value delivered, economic impact like net present value, internal rates of return, and of course ROI. Also, I'm a big fan of including cash flow analysis and even the scenario analysis that Alex described. That is great stuff, where you offer a, quote, likely return, conservative return, or an optimistic return. You generally can get the business case for a qualified prospect too soon. So once you've assessed the status quo, make your best efforts. You certainly don't want to be caught without one when presenting to the buyer. There are two paths that we offer, depending upon the complexity of your solution. We can build a high-quality ROI tool with a custom business case output for your sales team or value engineers to use. Or your second option could be we could provide field-level business case analysis support on a deal-by-deal basis. There you get resources like Drew and Alex to work with you and your prospect one-on-one. Once again, a quick reminder that if you have questions, please send them to me in the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel. Our next strategy is around the concept of dealing with discovery data gaps. Alex is going to explain the concept of an opportunity matrix. Alex?
Great, thanks, Michael. So what happens if you engage to build a business case, but then stall out during discovery due to the customer's unwillingness to share data? We've run into this a number of times with our clients. Sometimes it is simply because the prospect wants to build their own business case, and that's fine. In those cases, you want to be sure that you provide relevant customer success stories. You can also run a workshop to help your prospect understand the approach to building a business case, leveraging the prospect's 10K and other available data. Alternatively, you may elect to develop an opportunity matrix. Think cocktail napkin math on steroids. The key here is to leverage what you do know and show ranges for what you don't know. So this is an example for a company selling back office productivity software. Task volume, estimated time per task, and number of workers are known. Now your prospect may be coy on providing labor costs, and it may not be clear exactly how much your solution is likely to improve utilization. An opportunity matrix can grab the attention of the decision maker by leveraging what is known and filling in the gaps with credible ranges. In this case, productivity improvement across the horizontal axis and labor rate across the vertical axis. The range of positive financial impact is in the main body of the matrix. Human nature has the viewer looking at the biggest number to the lower right, but a well-placed likely range can suggest significant annual gains, 4.9 to 9.2 million in this case. So it's like scenario analysis all over again. So we're talking about financial value and showing some credible numbers, even though the precise numbers aren't exactly known. And these are just annual values, by the way. Over the course of several years, the impact is several years of what they might see here. So this can be really compelling stuff.
Hey, thank you, Alex. Here are the steps you can take to develop your own opportunity matrix. You need to first identify the primary value drivers, either through discussion or a value inventory workshop. Next, identify the metrics for calculating value. And then finally, estimate the credible range for each metric and highlight the, well, likely. Using, as Alex put it, cocktail napkin math on steroids, you can certainly help you with pursuit management, but it can also gap fill during the business case process. Whether you engage us to write a white paper that shows an indicative case study for a certain solution vertical mix, or whether we are providing field-level support, we will bring forth the best practices, value messaging to support your financial sales execution. Our last strategy tool consists of offering a strategic deal structure. My 8-year-old gets this one, Drew. He's constantly asking for video games and then says, can I pay you back out of my allowance each week? That's a deal structure, according to him anyway. So, can you share the TFP experience, please?
That's a deal structure according to me as well.
Yes.
So, as inferred earlier, TFP has been grappling with budget issues since its inception. As Alex reviewed earlier, a strong business case can help to create budget. Another way to overcome budget is to strategically structure the deal to fit the given situation. Let me share a few examples. First, each customer is different regarding what triggers their capital budget. But for those that are cash-based or flexible regarding POs, Deferring payments to the next budget cycle or spreading payments over multiple budget cycles can do the trick. TFP has a database of thousands of deals over dozens of verticals, including how those techniques have worked in those buying processes. Business case, deal structure, overcoming budget, etc. It is definitely not a case of one size fits all. Second, aligning the payments to deployment of the solution so that the costs match technology adoption can help with volume purchases or in OEM situations to match receipt of revenue. For this, presentation, as Alex discussed, is critical for being extremely clear on not only the value of the technology, but the business value of the deal structure. And third, especially if you spent the appropriate time on that business case, finish the job and map payments to the forecasted receipt of benefits from your multi-year business case analysis so that the solution essentially pays for itself. In addition, spreading the cost over time improves the deal's business case metrics as the NPV increases and payback shortens. And on a broader scale, close rates go up. When selling a traditional license or other form of upfront purchase, getting creative with the deal structure is far more strategic than blunt discounting. Moreover, it has been our experience that introducing a creative buying option that includes important financial metrics can often bridge the conversation from IT to finance, as your IT sponsor may not know what can and cannot be done. This bridging that TFP has facilitated in countless transactions is one of the keys to the C-suite. Last year, we conducted a Selling to CFOs survey. One of the core learnings was that CFOs don't make decisions based on budgets. They make business decisions based on the company's strategic initiatives. Again, each case is different, but a well-structured deal and a solid business case can overcome no decision and decision delay. In the SaaS and cloud world, these concepts hold. Put off any payment until actual use. Target pilot or smaller groups and build from there. Show that benefits always overwhelm costs and that the solution essentially pays for itself.
Well, you can certainly get creative with your deal structures, as we just showed. But if you're not set up to provide that kind of flexibility and you want to do it effectively, don't underestimate the time and effort it can take, especially if you're concerned about upfront revenue, credit risk, or compensation, so on. A one-off with such concerns can easily add a couple of quarters to your sales cycle and potentially get you to no versus no decision. Inserting creativity into your deal structure often necessitates the need to pull in finance and a quicker understanding of the buying process. Whenever possible, it should come before any additional discounting occurs. This truly is the future of selling. TFP was founded on financial sales execution, including the development and management of world-class customer finance programs. We know how to make it easier for your prospects to understand your offers, to see the value of your technology and of buying now versus later, and can simplify the execution of creative deal structures to meet your corporate needs. Call us if overcoming budget issues is a repeat offender. And finally, this is your last chance to send us your questions. Please enter your question in the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel. It's right there on the right-hand side of your screen. Drew's going to walk us through how you tie together all the strategies that we've shared with you and the impact on your solution in the sales process. Drew.
Okay, so moving up the priority list can occur if you can quantify the pain via economic discovery, better communicate your value, collaborate with the prospect to write a compelling business case, fill any gaps with the scenario analysis of an opportunity matrix, and structure the deal to handle budget concerns. If you take this approach, you'll have done everything you can to avoid no decision.
Does this really work, Drew?
You know, Michael, it sure can. One of our clients was working with a regional communications provider on a business process management type initiative. From the information in the RFI, we provided the project sponsor, the Director of Customer Management, with a combination of the opportunity matrix and value slides to help establish budget. We then leveraged a status quo assessment from line discovery with pre-sales and working with the Director of Operations and the VP of Customer Experience to put together the business case to keep the sale on track. When it came time to initiate the project, the deal stalled out due to competing projects at the CIO level. We worked with the account team to stagger the payments for the solution to match departmental deployment, and in the process freed up short-term funds to take on larger professional services engagement. Part of the challenge was having the resources available to take on the project, but the business case that had already been agreed to included the cost of no decision calculations, which more than covered the slight increase in professional services costs, which of course gave more resources to the project. The new buying option required review by staff from the Office of the CFO. We knew that the business case was solid, but now it had the right audience to influence action. The result was a $2.5 million win. I'm not saying that you will employ all of these techniques in every deal, but it is certainly good to know what is available and when to use it.
Thanks, Drew, for sharing that example. Folks, within the next 24 hours, we will send everyone a link to a download for Alex's white paper on overcoming no decision.
Yeah, you should consider that. That's the fun, play-at-home version of overcoming no decision. And I really think everyone's going to find it very interesting after I write it tonight.
Nice. It might be a little bit, slightly over 24 hours then, folks. Well, thank you for attending Overcoming No Decision. It's brought to you by ROI for Sales and Technology Finance Partners. We hope you've learned a lot of useful strategies for getting past those pesky no decisions, and we hope that your customers, like the ones we're showing here, move from maybe to yes. All right. Let's look at some questions. Hang on here. Let me just grab a few off here. Okay. This was directed at you, Alex, but Drew, I'd also like you to weigh in. It says, I really want to do a business case, but customers are often reluctant. They think they'll lose negotiating leverage. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure, that's a really good question. You know, customers obviously aren't stupid. They recognize why we do this, which is to increase the chances we're going to sell successfully. And if they do ask, if they do make this point, we try to emphasize what's in it for them. Couple things. First, we're putting them in a position to make a more informed decision. We're not compelling them to buy. And the business case is theirs. You know, we don't put anything into the business case without their permission. The second thing is we tell them that we're documenting a starting point against which they can measure future improvements. So companies buy stuff all the time, and later they have no idea if it was worth it. But if we do the upfront work for them, if we document the current state in a really complete and comprehensive way, then they can measure later and see, you know, did you really reduce cycle time by 10%? Without this business case, they have no idea.
That's a great point. Drew, did you have comments?
Yeah, you know, the other thing too is that you learn a lot about where you are on the sales cycle by your customers' willingness to engage in various aspects that you bring into it. And so if they're just simply not willing to engage on the business case, that may tell you something about where they're at on wanting to buy. I mean, you know, now if they say that they've got it completely handled and they're working their own business case, and you know, then at least you're, you know, assuming they're being honest, that you're at least getting a sense that they're moving forward, and you can potentially help them with customer success story information and other things, or it's simply having brainstorm sessions on the various values that might come into play, and so that you're showing them that they have everything they need. If they are really just being reluctant because they don't want to share data with you and they think they're going to establish a benchmark from which you're going to price from, well then you may still want to proceed with things that are like a business value hypothesis, where you know the values that you're going to bring to them, and so you do some sample calculations to show them you know, ranges of where you think the value could be based on the size of the organization. Now you're going to be using made-up data that's not exactly theirs, but you're still going to at least try and you know, give them a sense where it's going. And what can happen from that sometimes is that you get a jump start to the process, and once they start seeing some numbers, then they might engage more with the process.
And certainly be more excited about the process, I would hope.
Yeah.
Here's the skeptic that's always on every webinar. This is from a guy named Don. He says that, isn't this just marketing fluff? Don't customers see right through this? Drew, that was directed at you.
Wait, I'm not sure why I'm the marketing fluff guy. Fair enough, fair enough. So, I guess in the sense that everything about your company is marketing fluff, I suppose you could make that claim. I mean, it's a little bit ridiculous, right? You have come up with quality products that you're going to market with. You know, quite frankly, you either believe in your products or you don't. If you don't believe in your products, you know, you might want to consider a different job. At some level, you have to buy into what your company is selling. And so if you as a company have made the effort to understand the value that you bring to the market, you should be proud of that value. There's a purpose for what you're selling, and you should not be shy to share with your prospects the value that you can bring to them. And that's why we believe so strongly in an exercise like the Value Inventory Workshop, where you go through and you detail exhaustively, overturning every stone possible. What are the potential values that you can bring to the market? And then you prioritize them by, you know, based on the buyer's perspective, what's important to them, and also understanding where your competitive advantage is. And if you are grounded in that, if you understand the value you bring and where you have a competitive advantage, then you should not be shy at all to talk to your prospects about the value you can bring to them.
And Alex, I'd just like to add, you know, it's really, if someone's complaining this is all marketing fluff, really in my view, it's really all about how good a job you did in managing the process. And if you did a good job of managing that process, if there was strong collaboration and communication throughout, if you've built your credibility using some of the techniques we've talked about throughout this presentation, then it definitely will feel less like marketing fluff, and hopefully not like marketing fluff at all, but rather a dispassionate quantitative analysis that helps people make an informed decision. So the process is everything.
I agree with both of you. I think it's key that you establish that foundation on real value, real issues, pains, and goals that the market is facing, like that value inventory workshop that Drew, you mentioned. Statistically, and there are many, many studies on this, from IDC to Aberdeen to Gartner, on most B2B complex sales will require the vendor, the seller, to produce some sort of a business case and a value analysis. And so if it's marketing fluff, then that value analysis, why would they be asking for it? So, I mean, it's all in that process. You're absolutely right. Guys, we have time for one more question. Let me just pick one off of here. Let's see, how do I get, oh, this is a good one. How do I get started with strategic deal structuring? Do I need to call my bank or my AP department, or who? This is from Jim. So, Drew, why don't you take that one?
Right. Well, if you're going at it for the very first time, I mean, one thing to do would be to call us, because we've been, you know, doing this for the history of our company, and we have more experience in this than just about anyone. It's very complex and difficult to do it on an ad hoc basis because you are either not going to have any control of the process if you just point your customer to a bank. If you are a traditional licensed company and you simply allow them to pay for it over time and hold that internally, then it's going to have revenue recognition impact. And quite frankly, your company is not going to be prepared to handle that on an ad hoc basis. The point of that all being is that it's not going to be terribly strategic if you're not prepared to be strategic in your deal structuring. So, whether you contact us or whether you spend real time on it internally to figure out how to grapple with this ability to offer strategic deal structuring, you do need to invest the time and effort into making sure that you cover not just the ability to make the offers on the in the front office, as it were, but also are prepared in the back office to deal with such structuring.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, please.
I was just going to add a quick thought to that. To illustrate the value of a deal structure, sometimes we do what we call an executive financial summary, or an EFS, which is a one-page view of the value of the deal structure itself. So not the business benefits that we talked about before, but actually the value of the deal structure. And usually we show the value of perhaps a volume purchase over a pay-as-you-go approach, but Not always. We do it for other reasons as well. And these documents, these one-page overviews, are just a great way to show the value of that deal structure and a great way to turn a prospect from no decision to a closed deal.
Thanks. Folks, we're out of time, and once again, thank you for joining us today. And if you have additional questions, please drop any of us an email, and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much, and goodbye.